Alright, welcome back to another video in the series. This video is about what exactly credit is and why you should even bother with the whole borrowing from the bank and paying back a bill in a month and all that credit card business. Why is that important? Like, what is it and why is it important? Alright, so my definition of credit is here on the screen. It is a measure of how reliable you are when you borrow money. I'm going to say that one more time for effect. Credit is a measure of how reliable you are when you borrow money. Okay? Credit allows you to do a lot of things. It allows you to buy things that are normally too expensive to buy in cash or to buy all at once, such as a house or a car. If you think about the houses in California, they're like, I don't know, $600,000. Crazy! And no one, at least most people, are not walking around with $600,000 in cash. They don't have $600,000 in the bank account. This is just unheard of. Unless you're Elon Musk or some sort of other millionaire or billionaire. Okay? Or even a car, like let's say like a new Honda. Maybe 25,000 easily, at least, right? For a car. And no one's walking around with that much money either. And so what happens when you have these big ticket items that you want to buy, but you don't have the money? What happens is you take out a loan. You take out a loan. A loan just means borrowing money from someone. Borrowing money. Okay? So, what happens when you try to go to a bank or some sort of other financial institution and apply for a loan? Or basically, ask them for money. So, let's take a little trip. This is the bank person. And you know they're the bank person because they're standing behind a desk. Alright, that's clearly a desk. And here's you, customer. And you say, I want a loan. Basically, that means, I want to borrow your money. Okay? So you're basically going and asking them for money. And it's their job to determine, are you a person that they want to give money to? Are you reliable? Are you reliable? Are you someone that they can trust with their money? Because you're asking for a house, a $600,000 loan. Will you pay $600,000 in some sort of like terms, so like over the course of maybe like 30 years, right? Will you pay it back? Are you reliable? Are you dependable? That's their job as the bank or financial institution. And so, what is reliability? How can they know to trust you and whether or not you'll pay it back? How do they know that? They know from your credit score. Okay? Your credit score. And what's your credit score? Your credit score is a measure of how reliable you are when you borrow money. Alright? And how this is measured is similar to a grading system, actually. So here on the right, I have this like traditional grading scale that you've probably seen in your K-12 and college and all that. So you have these set of numbers that dictate where you fall on the scale, right? So the higher your score is up here, basically the better of a student, or it's a measure of how well you understand the information in the class. So this is a measure of how much knowledge you have learned from the class, right? The higher you are, the more you know. That's basically what that's supposed to be. Now on the left is a similar type of grading scale, but instead of grades, it's for credit scores. So credit scores typically go from a range of 300 to 850. Why is it these numbers? I'm not too sure myself. It's kind of random, but that's what we were working with. 300 to 850, instead of from the grading system we have 0 to 100, right? So 300 is on the lower end, and 850 is on the higher end. So, similar to a grading system, you are aiming to be as high as you can, right? So you're trying to get into this zone right here, and you're trying to avoid down here. All right, we're aiming for a high score, not a low score. Higher is better, lower is not so much good. And so, this credit score measures how reliable you are when you borrow money. So what exactly is reliability? Alright, let's do a little deep dive into what reliable when borrowing money is, and why does Jessica keep saying that? So reliability. Okay? We have two people. Let's say this is Joe and this is Bob. Joe asks Bob, "Hey, can I get $50? Joe's asking $50. And Bob says, "Sure." So what happens is, Bob will give Joe $50. Under the condition that he pays it back in 1 week, and he pays the full amount. So $50. Okay? So 1 week passes, and then our two characters meet up with each other. Joe gives Bob $50 on the correct date after 1 week. Alright? So Bob is like, "Thank you for my $50. You paid it in full and you paid on time. That's very nice of you." And Joe says, "Yep, for sure. Thank you for letting me borrow your money." And then after 1 month, Joe comes to Bob again and asks for, "Hey, can I borrow $70? And Bob says, "Okay, since last time I trusted you with my money, you gave it back on time and you gave the right amount, sure, dude." And so, in this case, Joe had reliable history. He was reliable when he borrowed money from Bob. Why? Because after 1 week, on the correct due date, he paid back exactly what was expected of him. Alright, he is reliable, and that's why Bob is willing to lend him some more money. If we look at another case, such as instead of Joe paying back the full $50, and in 1 week, he waits 3 weeks, and he only pays $25. So now, he is late, and he's not even paying the correct amount. And so, Bob, he's like really upset. He's like, "What the heck, dude? I asked for my full amount back in 1 week, and we agreed on that." And so, these guys are mad at each other. Bob doesn't have his money, it's been late, and he doesn't have enough. And so 1 month passes again. And then Joe, he hasn't even paid back his stuff, and now he's asking for $70. There is no way that Bob is gonna be like, "Okay, sure." He's gonna give a hard pass on that, and he's like, "No, you had better give me back my full $50 before I give you any more money." In this case, Joe did not pay his money, and he is unreliable. Okay? If you were in Bob's position, you probably wouldn't want to keep giving money to Joe either. He's not giving it back to you, and he's late, and he's like not caring about giving you your money back. That is reliability versus unreliability. And that's what this credit score is. Because remember, in our previous video, we talked about how you're like borrowing from the bank and all that. Well, when you borrow from the bank, instead of Joe and Bob, you have Joe and the bank, right? You have Joe and the bank. And Bob was literally just a stand-in for the bank. So every time you use your credit card, you're borrowing from the bank. Okay? And so each time you borrow and you pay it back, you pay the bill, on time and the full amount. That's exactly this situation here that we had with Bob and Joe. Okay? So this credit score, it comes from like how good are you at this whole situation of borrowing money and paying it back full and on time. Okay, that's what this is. That's what that is. And so the higher your score, that's like our first situation where we were reliable. And a low score means Joe's not paying his stuff back on time. Okay? And so this is the score. This is the score that the bank that you're trying to borrow money from is looking at. They're looking, if you're high, maybe 770. That's a great score. Or maybe you have a really low score, like, I don't know, 450. That is really low. Okay? So these numbers are just a way for your bank person to know whether or not you are reliable or not. Okay? So credit is just a measure of how reliable you are when you borrow money.